Name two of the cameramen in this room.
It's a different crew tonight, actually.
Would I have President Trump on the show? Of course I would. He's the president of the United States. You don't have to agree with everything that someone says. I would have any president of the United States on the show and ask them questions. That's what you would do. So, and I hope, I'd hope I would ask him questions that I would want answered. I have two kids, and I would ask him questions about some of the things that he's doing, but I believe that any host would, and they'd be foolish not to. If you had a chance to interview President Trump, you would, and I think that you would ask the questions that are near and dear to you and to the people that watch your show.
Let's be honest for a second. Late night television used to be a vibe. It was silly. It was spontaneous. It was fun. Now, it's a political TED Talk with a laugh track. The comedy replaced with commentary, the punchlines swapped for partisan claps, and the hosts. They're not so much comedians as they are mouthpieces for whatever's trending on Twitter that day. But while late night slowly morphed into another echo chamber, one man held the line: Conan O'Brien, the last true king of late night. And today, we're going to talk about why Conan stood apart, how he managed to keep his soul, his humor, and his weirdness intact while everyone else got swallowed by the outrage machine.
Half the country is really happy. Half the country somewhere between despondent and furious. And you may not know this about me, or you may. I'm a history buff. I love American history. And I was struck by one thought today. We have been here before. We have had bitter, angry elections for 200 years, whether it was Jefferson versus Burr, Adams versus Jackson, Lincoln versus Douglas, Alien versus Predator.
Let's just start there, because this is not your typical late night monologue. Instead of melting down or throwing a televised victory party, Conan zoomed out. He reminded us of something simple, yet profound. This has all happened before. Jefferson versus Burr. That election literally broke friendships and almost broke democracy. Adams versus Jackson, pure chaos. Lincoln versus Douglas, heated and historic, even threw in a joke. Alien versus Predator, classic Conan. This moment shows us something that gets lost in the noise today. Perspective. Conan didn't panic. He didn't pander. He put things in historical context and made us laugh doing it. That's his genius. He meets us where we are. Anxious, divided, overwhelmed, and still finds a way to make us chuckle.
Would I have President Trump on the show? Of course I would. He's the president of the United States. You don't have to agree with everything that someone says. I would have any president of the United States on the show and ask them questions. That's what you would do. So, and I hope, I'd hope I would ask him questions that I would want answered. I have two kids, and I would ask him questions about some of the things that he's doing, but I believe that any host would, and they'd be foolish not to. If you had a chance to interview President Trump, you would, and I think that you would ask the questions that are near and dear to you and to the people that watch your show.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Politics. Conan is no apolitical monk. He's made donations. He's got his views. But unlike most of his peers, he never let those views hijack his comedy. This clip says it all. Asked whether he'd have Trump on his show, Conan doesn't hesitate. Of course I would, he says, not to platform or endorse, but because that's what a good host does. You ask the tough questions. You hear people out. You treat your audience like adults. Compare that to today's hosts who won't even say a guest's name without spitting venom. Conan respects the audience enough to let them decide. That's rare and powerful.
It's very nice that we live in this world now where there are all these different late night shows and everyone can kind of do the thing that they want to do their way. I think a lot of late night shows have sort of morphed a little bit so that sometimes there's comedy, but then they've become much more political. And that's not a bad thing. It's just different. I have strong political views and thoughts about things that I'm passionate about, but I choose not to go that way. But I feel like we're all put here to do different things. And it's really, I don't think it's why I was put here, is to passionately tell people what I think politically. I very much got into late night comedy because I wanted to do weird, silly things that made people giggle.
This might be the most important quote in this whole video. Conan gets it. He's not here to shame anyone for being political. He's just saying, that's not my lane, and that takes discipline, especially in an industry where outrage equals views. Conan could have easily jumped on the bandwagon, delivered fiery monologues, gotten retweets, but instead he stayed in his own weird, silly, joyful universe. The one full of absurd sketches, dancing bears, and jokes that make you go, what even was that? And why am I laughing so hard? He didn't sell his comedic soul to stay relevant. He doubled down on what made him different, and in doing so, he became timeless.
In the last couple of years, I've traveled to a bunch of countries, Cuba, Armenia, the Middle East, where the people would give anything to have our system. In America, we get to pick who's going to ruin our country. And it's up to us. We get to choose. Yeah, no, seriously. And it's a privilege.
This line is peak Conan, sharp, sarcastic, but quietly wise. While others were doom-scrolling the news and rage-tweeting, Conan was out in the world, seeing it firsthand, seeing how people fight for what we often take for granted, the right to choose, to vote, to complain. Even in his snarkiest moments, Conan never loses sight of the bigger picture. He respects the process, he respects the audience, and he doesn't pretend like his jokes are going to fix the world. He just wants to make it suck a little less before you go to sleep.
I've been doing pretty much a nightly show, more or less nonstop, since 1993. It's been 28 years, and we're in the process of wrapping it up right now on TBS. And then, yeah, you know me, Sona, I'll go on to do other things.
Yes.
I'm kind of a hyperactive person who likes to make stuff. But this is a big, it's a big transition. And people keep asking me, are you okay? Are you okay? How are you feeling? And I feel fine. I have been walking around thinking, am I supposed to be, you know?
Sad?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I think that you know that it's the right time to do this.
Yep.
I think that you know that you're good. And I mean, it's television. It's like, who watches TV anymore anyway, right?
Oh, now I'm just depressed. So I devoted 28 years of my life to something that nobody gives a shit about.
This is where it starts to hit, the end of an era. Conan ran the late-night gauntlet for nearly 3 decades. Through network shifts, time slot wars, and endless changes in pop culture, he was there, doing the bit, dancing the string dance, and making us laugh. But even he knew the tide was turning. While others clung to the crumbling castle of broadcast TV, Conan pivoted, smoothly, brilliantly. He launched Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and boom, instant podcast sensation. While the late-night genre was flatlining, Conan was building a new empire, and doing it his way.
People have asked me before, what's your biggest influence comedically? And I said, without a doubt, it's Conan O'Brien. One of the most surreal moments of my entire life has been the first night I went on that show. I get to the blue curtain back on the 12:30 slot in MEC, and they pulled the curtain, and I blacked out. That is not an exaggeration. I totally blacked out, don't remember anything until Conan was shaking my hand and pushed me into the couch and said everything's gonna be fine.
That story, that's legacy. It's one thing to be funny, another to be beloved, but it's something else entirely to change people's lives. Conan's not just a comedian, he's a mentor, an enabler of weirdness, a launchpad for talent. So many comedians, writers, and actors trace their first big break back to him, and it's never about clout, it's always about support, encouragement, a belief that comedy should lift people up, not punch them down. He's not just a host, he's the guy behind the curtain saying, "You've got this." And in an industry full of egos and ladder pullers, that kind of humility is rare.
I was an intern for Conan O'Brien my junior year of college. For a summer, and I was his script intern.
That intern, now a professional actor. His career was jump-started because Conan opened a door. Not for show, not for likes, just because that's the kind of person he is. We hear so many stories about toxic work environments in entertainment, especially in late night, but with Conan, it's the opposite. Former interns, writers, staffers, they all speak of him with respect and affection. He wasn't just the boss, he was the real deal.
Name 2 of the cameramen in this room.
It's a different crew tonight, actually.
Let's talk about that moment. James Corden, awkwardly dodging the question. He couldn't name a single crew member, and sure, maybe it was just a bad moment, or maybe it said everything. Contrast that with Conan, who knew his crew, teased them, pulled them into bits, celebrated them on screen. And it's not just the crew. Remember during the 2019 writers' strike, while others were cutting deals to slash pay, Conan paid his staff out of his own pocket. No press release, no performative post, just did it, because he respects the people who make the show happen. Remember when Trump floated the idea of buying Greenland? Most late night hosts mocked it from behind their desk. Conan, he booked a flight. He actually went to Greenland, met the locals, filmed hilarious skits, asked deadpan if they'd like to join the US. It was smart. It was absurd. It was so Conan. Instead of just roasting headlines, he jumped into them. That's the kind of creativity that set him apart. Not just reacting to the news, but reframing it with humor. So where does all of this leave us? In a world of shouty monologues and one-sided satire, Conan O'Brien was the last late-night host who trusted us. He didn't need to scream his opinions into the void. He didn't need to chase cheap applause lines. He didn't need to go viral by being angry or brave. He was just funny, consistently, authentically, relentlessly. He made weird cool. He made humility powerful. He made late night feel human again. While others became pundits, Conan remained a performer, someone who understood that comedy at its best unites. And in a divided world, that's revolutionary. So let's wrap this up. If you miss the kind of late night show that actually makes you laugh, not sigh, not seethe, then you already know the truth. Conan wasn't just another host, he was the standard. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we stop looking for the next Conan and start appreciating the one we had. If you loved this breakdown, smash that like button. Subscribe for more smart deep dives into comedy, media, and culture. And tell us in the comments, what's your all-time favorite Conan moment? Thanks for watching, and remember, it's always the quiet legends who leave the loudest legacies. Long live Conan!